Zack Rogow is an author, editor, and translator of 18 books or plays, with 3 more full-length projects in the works. His 6th book of poem, The Number Before Infinity, was published by Scarlet Tanager Books. He's the editor of an anthology of U.S. poetry, The Face of Poetry, published by the UC Press. Currently, he teaches in the graduate writing programs at California College of the Arts and the University of Alaska in Anchorage.
Hi, everybody. We have to keep the conga line moving here because they've got a bar mitzvah coming in at 5:30. And there's an experimental art piece at 9 o'clock. So, this first poem is called What Do You Think? And it began by drawing up a list of the most annoying things I could think of. What do you think when people act like 10 items or less doesn't apply to them? What do you think about drivers who muscle into the turn lane without waiting in line in a Prius? What do you think about scholars who write arm-length footnotes that include the words heuristic and counter-hegemonic and then tell you how they're changing the world? What do you think about countries that can't go 5 years without starting a new war? Countries like the one I live in and love. What do you think about people who think their religion is better than everyone else's? They can't all be right, but they could all be wrong. I once heard the Zen master Suzuki Roshi describe with joy tasting the wafer when he took communion at St. Patrick's Cathedral. How do you react to people who tear up their bodies in the name of exercise and health? What do you think about automatic weapons in private hands? They're needed, right, to repel space invaders? What do you think about people who think that everything you get in life is deserved? Genocide? Bad karma. See you later. What do you think about apps where you can't advance to the next level without 15 hours of practice? What do you think about people who never have a problem with anything and always answer the question, how are you, with a chirpy, great? What do you think about artists who think it's perfectly fine if their work only makes sense to them and their friends? I'm not sure what I think about poems that start every line with the same words. Many days I'm not sure what I think about myself. I'm not sure what I think about growing old and looking more and more each day like my grandpa Saul, with my spectacles and my gray hair melting away like a glacier. And I don't want to think about death on those days when the argent sky and the newborn grass on the hills seem so vivid. And I think of all my memories evaporating like a sudden lake formed by a rainstorm in the Sahara, where I hitchhiked in the violent heat of July at age 18, and I can't bear for all this ever to end. I'm going to read a couple of poems from a book of mine that's a book of love poems called The Number Before Infinity. And this first one is called A Map of You. You've become my map, my geography, the black forest of your hair, your alpine lake eyes, fathom after fathom, your mouth red as turned Carolina earth, those shoulders like Dover's chalk towers, your sugarloaf breasts by your peninsular arms, Baja, Malaysian, and your fingertips when they touch me, Polynesian archipelagos, Serengeti, the temperature of your flesh. Your Panama waist flares to Venezuelan thighs, and between them the Amazon, the Delta, rare species of the Galapagos, coral reefs with ultraviolet fish. In just a few short months, you've become the other planet I inhabit. And your legs taper like a continent headed south, one ending in Tierra del Fuego, the land of fire, and the other in the Cape of Good Hope. This next poem is also from the book of love poems, but it's about the difficulties in this particular love. It's called Skating Lessons. I tug my 6-year-old around the rink, shocked by the ice, how it isolates each individual. That yellow parka, Those blue mittens, the red knit cap against a backdrop white as a photographer's studio. My daughter flows along next to me, learning to skate as I hold her hand. She tightens her grip when she's frightened her feet will go off on their own. Our blades draw silver lines that criss and cross each other. Just yesterday, I told her I was leaving her mommy. How do you spell hate? She asked me afterwards, scribbling a note to me on a roll of register tape. But today, my daughter is really skating at my side, taking her first shaky steps on her own without holding my hand. She explains how she'll do it. When you're near me, I'll pretend you're not here. When you're not here, I'll pretend you are. And the last poem I'm going to read is also a huzzle. George ended his set with a huzzle. I'd like to do the same. And the huzzle is a form that comes from Arabic. It's one of the oldest lyric forms still being written. And it started about the 7th century. Came over into Persia in the golden age of Persian poetry in the era of Rumi and Hafiz, where it was refined and perfected. And it's now a popular song form in South Asia. So I'm going to attempt to sing this huzzle as a blues. It's called Huzzle of the Sweet Waves. And you may have noticed in George's huzzle that the poet mentions her or his name in the second to last line. Get good and comfortable now. Make yourselves nice and comfortable now. I'm gonna tell of love. I'm gonna squeeze my voice so small. I'm gonna squeeze my voice so small. And I'm gonna yell of love. My mother used to whiskey and cry her way to sleep. My mother, she would whiskey, she'd cry her way to sleep. But even so, she used to quell of love. They go on and on and on and on and on and on and on about the sweet waves of love. Don't they go on and on and on about the sweet waves of love? But Sister Billy, you know I mean Lady Day, she could paint the hell of love. When I ache with age, I won't miss the act of love. When I ache with age, will I miss the act of love? But I'll still miss, I know I'll miss the taste and the smell of love. Don't forget the children with their wands and their masks. Don't you forget the children with their wands and their masks. When you die, under the spell of love. If you're not ready for the O and the V and the E of love, if you're not ready for the O and the V and the E of love, don't get started, don't you get started with the L of love. Do-do apple, do-do bap, boom, boo-do, do-do boom. Do-do bam, gong, 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 boom, do-da, boom, boom. Do-do bam, do-do bam. Do-do apple, do-do apple, do-do apple, do. I've made more than my share of love mistakes. You know I've made more than my share of love mistakes. Still I hope my daughters will think well of love. Zack, you're a used poetry salesman. Zack, you're just like a used poetry salesman. So good. So very good at the hard sell of love.